Hey guys, welcome back to Off the Water Special Edition Saturday night. We're coming to you live from Metairie, Louisiana, where we are maintaining the protocol here with the appropriate social distancing. I'm at least 10 miles away from our nearest guest tonight. Joining me tonight, as always, is Benjamin Day. I'm sorry, it's a long day, so I'm having a little trouble tonight. Special guest on tonight, we've got Dan Rodbell. We also have Tyler Caldwell joining us from the North Shore. Guys, thanks for coming on tonight. Before we get started, I wanted to really thank Josh Thompson for coming on last week. It was a great show, great job by Josh. I really appreciate everything he did. It's just been a long week. I'm pretty tuckered out. Today was a day that it was a good day. Dan, you had a lot to do with that. I'm going to give you all the props in the world. And for those that don't know, let me make some brief introductions. Everybody sure is familiar with Benjamin Day now, and everybody's always knows Tyler Caldwell. And Dan, just to kind of give a little background, Dan is Assistant Tournament Director 2 for Bayou Coast Kayak Fishing Club. And real quick, I want to make sure, Ben, you're recording?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I used to have to remind Tyler, but not Ben. He's on top of it tonight. So just want to make some introductions. Again, Dan is the new Assistant Tournament Director 2 with Bayou Coast. He won a very hard-fought election against Chuck Bahan to become ATD2. He's brought a lot of excitement into the club. And we really have Dan to thank for putting on this tournament this weekend. When all hope was lost, Dan came out and he said, you know what? This may be a good time to run an Outcast tournament. Dan, tell us about yourself, because I don't think a lot of us know too much about you. We give you a lot of crap online. You know, that's what we do. You're always a real good sport about it. But tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you've got some plants growing there in the background. And I know that you like to grow your own peppers and stuff, but we'd like to hear from you.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I mean, really the big one is fishing is what we're here to talk about. I started fishing in, I think it was, June of 2018. For the longest time, I've been down in New Orleans area since 2006. I thought the only way to get out on the water was to have your $15,000 bay boat, your $40,000 truck to tow it.
$15,000 bay boat?
A cheap one, used one, used one. Anyways, basically, I remember looking at the price tags, and I was like, so I've got this Honda Accord. I'm not sure how I'm going to tow much of anything with that. And then I was friends with Eric Mahobarak on Facebook because we both drank beer and had like the whole homebrew club thing on the side. And I saw that he did the kayak fishing, and all of a sudden, it all came together. So in July of 2018, I got a kayak. Since then, I've been stinking it up at the tournaments, really doing my signature move. Sean, why don't you tell them a little bit about rodbelling?
Yeah. Oh, well, there's all kinds of rodbelling. Rodbelling can be anywhere from, well, generally when we refer to, you just got rodbelled is when someone asks a simple question and you get a long answer. And it's very detailed and it's got footnotes, and you break out the Encyclopedia Britannicas to start looking. You probably don't remember the Encyclopedia Britannicas, but before the thing they called the internet, they had these books. They sold all the information, and you buy these books, and of course the next year they were useless because the information had been updated. But I'm probably rodbelling you guys right now. Now, Dan, you're not originally from Louisiana.
No, I came down to Louisiana to go to college. I originally grew up in Maryland, and in a few years I'll end up having been in Louisiana longer than I've been in Maryland.
Really?
Because I've been down here since 2006, so that makes it 15 years, almost 15 years now. So I've been here quite a while.
Yeah. Well, you're almost one of us. I mean, close, I guess. Maybe
as
now.
Close as you'll let me.
So you got into kayak fishing, and I know the bug caught you like the rest of us, and you really wanted to be a part of the club and do more, and you ran for assistant tournament director 2, and you brought some new ideas in there, some of which we've discussed at length, and one of them I know was to introduce kind of the wild card format to Bayou Coast for the championship, where we've talked about that in length before, but essentially people will have the opportunity by fishing the tournaments and earning points through the Angler of the Year. If they don't finish in the top 15 in any one particular tournament, if they're one of the top anglers, the top 2 are guaranteed in there if they hadn't already qualified for the championship tournament. So I know a lot of people like that. I know your goal behind that was to kind of give average Joe basically the opportunity to fish the championship while also encouraging people to fish all 4 tournaments.
Exactly. I mean, and a lot of what I came to my decision to really run for assistant tournament director is that generally I'm a high energy person. I like being involved and I like to build things up. And I kind of saw this opportunity to add something in addition to what you do, Sean, where you're really just running the championship series, where I could kind of fill some of the gaps and take in the space. And a big part of running for office with the club was talking to the members and figuring out kind of, well, what are we looking for? What do we want? And a very simple one was outcast tournaments. People were saying, hey, I'd like to have some maybe non-traditional saltwater tournaments or even some freshwater options. And really to kind of try to avoid us interfering with the BCKFC official tournaments, the original plan was that once we got past our May tournament, which is going to be Where You At Classic, we were going to maybe do some outcast tournaments over the summer. But with the coronavirus kind of throwing a wrench in the works, on Tuesday, kind of 2 things at once was, well, it's time to get this moving sooner than later. And really another one is people need something to do to get their mind off of coronavirus. And it seems like a good way to really get that social distancing thing, which it all just kind of came together on kind of an aha moment for me to make sure that we could get people out on the water and really have a good time this weekend.
Yeah, and that's important. We had plans to do CPR tournaments later this year. And most notably, our big one will be the Falling Tide tournament in the fall. But we obviously had Trout Challenge scheduled this weekend for today that had to be postponed because of the weigh-in ceremony would have attracted more than 10 people. And really right now the club itself wants to be very careful and wants to abide by the rules, and everything being set forth. And you came up with an idea. I mean, look, a lot of people had already made plans to fish today. And you were like, well, hell, I can throw together a quick CPR tournament where we don't have to get together, but everybody can still go out there and fish. And, the great thing about using the Tourney X program that a lot of people experienced today was the fact that they got to see other people catching fish kind of, live as you're going on throughout the day.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, and really, as far as Tourney X goes, I really got to give a shout out to Wayne Wally. He's the owner and founder of Tourney X. I think we made the decision on, what was it, like Tuesday night to postpone Trout Challenge or whatever day that was earlier this week. We made that decision. I was like, all right, I gotta get Tourney X going. And Eric Stacy, our main tournament director when it comes to Pedalpalooza and Fallen Tide, had a connection with Dwayne, so we were texting back and forth, and he spent a good 20 minutes on the phone with me on Tuesday night so I could figure out how to be a tournament director on that platform. And I think that really the key to us being able to have 36 people out there today was the quick transition from going Trout Challenge postponed, 3-4 hours later, we got a backup plan. I think that really was it was just great, and I really can't thank Dwayne enough for his time late at night on Tuesday.
That's awesome. Yeah, and so just so people know, this was not a club sanctioned tournament. It was completely on Dan to get it all organized, and there was a $5 entry fee. And what people need to understand is that $5 did not go to anyone in particular. The $5 was the cost to each person entering the tournament to pay for their use of Tourney X. So that was basically 100% cost into Tourney X. It was kind of more or less, I think, Dan, you were setting it. Look, this is going to be a big experiment. A lot of people haven't fished a CPR tournament before, and, you didn't have a lot of time to put it together. So you kind of throwing together some rules and some everything else using from other sources. Was this your first time using Tourney X in a tournament?
This was entirely my first time doing Tourney X, and in part of those 20 minutes I spent on the phone with Dwayne on Tuesdays. He ran through the dashboard on the website, how to get things set up, really everything about that, and that's kind of from there how I was figuring out how to run it personally, and then also working with Tyler on the side. This is kind of also a bit, while I was running it was a bit of a testing experience for all of us as officers to get a feel for the platform, so that when we actually do something with the club officially, that we can hopefully hit the ground running.
Now, Dan, there was some prizes today. I think Justin. I'm
Justin Hebert. Justin Hebert with Ginger Avenger.
A bunch of Ginger Avengers, $60 worth of Ginger Avengers to the thing, and we had another $75 of different tackle that was given away for first place. How was that tackle obtained?
I went to my local tackle shop about 10 minutes from my house. B&B Tackle. It's down in Bell Chase. And just as a quick aside, with the coronavirus economic slowdown, your people in the fishing community, your tackle shop owners, your charter captains, anybody that's local within 15 minutes of your house, everybody, please go out and support these people. They are the bedrock of our fishing community.
But maintain 6 feet distance.
Yes. Keep some distance. Yeah, no, I mean, as a funny note, like I got seasonal allergies, and my oak tree out front's doing its thing. So I'm out there shopping in Austin, shop at B&B Tackle. I just do a light little sneeze into my shoulder. He says, "One more sneeze and you're out of here." But yeah, no, I went in there, shopped the sale rack, looked for as many like local items as I could, like little shoo, Mad Mulch from Captain Lane, some Four Horsemen gear, as well as also, of course, with the club, I'd like to kind of give our sponsors a little bit of due. So I got some Gulp and some Johnson Spoon. So I got a little bit of everything to.
Now, this
kind of an Overcast, of course.
Actually donated by you. I mean, you went and spent your own money to kind of fund this, to kind of give everyone something to fish for.
Yeah, I mean, it was really just the kind of thing where I felt like, I'm just kind of trying to pay it forward. I mean, everybody's gonna be going through a tough time right now. I feel like kindness and a little bit of charity in the fishing community, maybe people can pay it forward to other people around them, and we can get through this all together over the next 3 to 12 months, however long this lasts.
Well, we always give you a lot of crap online and in person, Dan, but that's a real stand-up thing to do. I know a lot of us appreciated your effort in putting this together, and spending your own money and getting the prizes together. So thank you very much. I know I was really looking forward to the tournament, and it was very nice because it was very kind of relaxing. You didn't feel a lot of pressure on you. I mean, I knew the baits for the most part that you were buying were off the discount racks. So
no. Only these things, which were $2. I grabbed like these. I think some garlic dip or something like that. But no. Like by and large, the vast majority of things were items that I fish with or would fish with. I ended up getting the smaller version of the Berkeley Juke as compared to the comical 100 size that we had at Minimalist.
The Godzilla thing.
the Berkeley 100 jerkbait that like I couldn't figure out what in the marsh would consider eating that besides a gator.
Yeah. So no, but I know a lot of people were looking forward to it and getting out there. And the great thing about this tournament was I saw a lot of people at the launch, and it was good seeing. I ran into Eric Stacy and Josh Red and Michael Etheridge and a couple other guys, and we just, we all kind of maintained our distance. We did a little elbow bump, and that was about it. We all launched and took off, and I ran into some guys on the water and had a really good time and communicating with everybody. And just seeing the fish come in, I was surprised to see your name up on the leaderboard early with some nice trout coming in this morning. I mean, where'd that come from?
Really, what it came down to was there was a little pattern I was thinking might happen this week, which is actually this was my first time out to Basin State area that I went and fished today, There was a little
You guys
pattern.
not realizing this. This is where we get Rodbell. Go ahead.
We're getting Rodbelled.
Right,
It was the first time I'd pitched
we are
out there.
about to get Rodbell.
No, you are not. I will keep it quick. I promise I will keep it quick. And basically, the first spot I went to, I caught an 18.25-inch fish right off the bat. So I was like, this could be a good day.
Now I understand that fish was actually 18 and a half or 18 and 3/4 until Tyler got to measure it.
No, that was actually my big fish of the day. That was my 22-inch fish of the day, and there's a reason for that. The 18.25-inch fish, I measured him. I got him on the board. I got a good picture of him. I unzip my bag. I go to put him in the bag.
He
Speckled trout does his thing. It disappeared. So then later on, I caught a nice 22-inch speckled trout, and that one I was like, no, Mr. Speckled Trout. So I stuck boga grips on him, and I was like, I'm just going to deal with the half-inch penalty just so this sucker doesn't get off the board before I get a good picture.
Yeah, I mean, look, those trout were a little tricky. I mean, I had gotten the opportunity to fish a couple of CPR tournaments with bass, and they were a little bit more cooperative in shutting their mouths. But
Big time.
But trout were a little. I mean, they were a little funny about not wanting to shut their mouths. So
yeah, I mean, I was talking with Danny Compagno earlier, and he was one trout that jumped out of his kayak off the board when he was getting ready to take a picture from winning this sucker.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he had a good one on the board that flipped out of the kayak.
Oh.
Yeah, I heard some good stories about Breck Hotard having some issues as well with trout.
Oh yeah, no, he
story.
Yeah. Breck was fishing not far from me, maybe about an hour after the sun came up. He comes around the corner in his native Titan, and he's fishing along the shoreline. There's some nice shells. He pulls in like a nice, 16 to 17-inch trout. He's getting it on the board. He's fussing with his phone. All of a sudden, this trout just like whizzes by his ear, and there's just a stream of obscenities. I had to stop for a moment and laugh. It was too good.
We're going to get into results for a minute, but let's bring on Tyler real quick. So Dan, I know you were fishing the tournament, and Tyler, he's got a lot going on right now, getting ready for the baby, and I know he was apparently at home making a crib from spinning the wood on the spindle, and he was doing all that ready for the baby. Yeah. He does that sort of thing. I mean, look at that beard. You got to know that somebody who throws a beard like that can spin his own wood. So, Tyler, you were actually the judge for today, which I know, knowing your personality, this was right up your alley. You were getting to check out the pictures. You were getting to hammer some people. I mean, you hammered me on nearly every fish I submitted. I probably wouldn't win the damn thing if you didn't take off 20 inches off my fish today. Tell us a little bit about your experience as a judge. Tell us about the boards. You know, there's a lot of different things going on because you're looking at the boards, you're looking at the measurements, the way the fish are positioned. Kind of give us the judge's perspective, what you liked, what you didn't like, and what we need to do as participants in these type of tournaments, what we need to do better in the future.
Yeah, so it was an interesting experience, and especially with me being friends with a lot of y'all, and it's like, come on, Sean, man, I wish you'd close the mouth. I don't want to be the guy that's got to deduct the half inch, you know?
And, of course, this is my rule.
But I tried to just follow the rules to a T, and
you did.
And a lot of people got deducted a half inch today. That's all I'm going to say. A lot of people had open mouths. They might have been just cracked a little bit, but the way the rule was written, I felt that was the right thing to do, and I judged everybody the exact same way, and so I try to be as fair as possible. I don't know how many friends I lost in the process.
Real quick, Tyler. Taking a look at the website, it looks like we had 116 fish submitted today. How many of those do you think you had to dock on the mouth open?
I'm just gonna guess 40 plus.
Ooh, so like a third of the fish submitted.
I didn't look at that stat.
Like a third of the fish.
But what I found interesting was I had numerous people who had, maybe one or two open mouths in a row, and when they saw the deduction, they were messaging me, "Hey, what the hell?" And so I explained to them, "Look, that's what the rule says. Spend some time, get the mouth closed, and then after that, the next few fish they were submitting, the mouth was closed every time." So it's possible, and I think a lot of people just weren't aware that that might be judged as strictly as I was judging it.
Well, I didn't know that you could submit less than a 12-inch fish until like 1 o'clock.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben with your 9-inch bruisers.
I was just so happy.
They had 81 inches.
Yeah, let me take a look down the list of Ben's fish. Where are they? There they are. 9.5 and 9 1/4.
So I just wanted to use the app so bad the entire day. I was just like, I just want to submit a fish. And I caught these fish at like 1:30, 2 o'clock, and it was a downpour. It was complete downpour, and my phone wouldn't work because it was so wet on my finger. So I'm trying to take pictures and submit the fish, and I'm sending Tyler memes on my phone. And I have my poncho over my kayak, and I'm spinning around in circles while this was all happening. And I just put 9 inches and I was just, get them in there. It took me about 10 or 15 minutes per fish, I think, because it was raining so hard.
It's a look. I mean, I've done it for a few bass tournaments, and it's a learning curve. It's part of the process, man. And you hear stories all the time about people losing bass off the board, and just part of the game.
It was funny, Dan. You weren't there. I hadn't got to share this story with you yet, but I ran into Ben on the water when I was coming back in. I had to be home for 3. I stopped fishing early, and that's probably why I didn't win it today. But anyway, I was coming in. I ran into Ben, and I said, "Look, I'm going to show you a couple spots over here I like to fish." Even though where I was at was fishing was not so good today, but he hooks up on one. And he's like, "Oh, hey, Paul, I got the big one." And he's reeling it in. His rod's bent over pretty good. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, this is
oyster."
A good fish. And he's bringing it out. I say, "Dude, get the net. He's like, "I don't use a net." I'm like, "Ben, where's your net?" He's like, "Well, typically the trout aren't really big enough to use a net that I catch." So he didn't have a net. So, of course, he goes, and I'm not kidding, this was an 18-inch trout. He's bringing it up into the boat, and it falls off. And he's like, "Oh, man, I finally catch a trout that I can weigh," And I tell him, I said, "Well, you can weigh the ones that are less than 12 inches today." He's like, "Oh, I didn't know that either." So it was like the double whammy on my head.
10-inch trout I could have weighed, and I just like...
Yeah. He had a really nice trout on the line. He loses, and then he finds out that all these 9-inch trout he'd been catching all day. He could have been weighing in. So, Tyler, I understand we've got some pictures, some examples maybe of what were good submissions and maybe what were some problem submissions.
I'll say it's going to be a good learning experience for people who were fishing this, and for me as a person who was judging, to help us develop some good rules to maybe fix some of the issues that I came across today. I'll say that this also was thrown together pretty last minute, right? So we couldn't be super strict on which measuring board people was going to use because nobody had time to get a measuring board. So basically it was a anything goes type of deal on whatever measuring board you owned, and that presented some challenges. I can certainly see why these Bass series limit to certain style measuring boards. But anyway, Ben, if you put up that first picture.
This is the first picture.
But this basically to me is I figured I'd start with an example of a good picture, right? So right here you got the mouth is clearly closed. The identifier is readily visible in the picture. The tail is flat on the board. The markings on the board are clearly visible. One thing I'll mention that I noticed today that I think you'll probably see some sort of rule implemented in the future is that fish will need to be orientated in a certain direction. You'll see that in a lot of the bass tournaments. We didn't have that in this tournament. So fish will be measured different directions. And what that does is I'm comparing a lot of these fish that are similar in sizes to make sure that two fish the same fish wasn't submitted more than once. And then my thought process was, well, if somebody just flipped the fish over, then you're seeing a whole different pattern. So, right. So if you're looking at the same side of the fish in every single picture, you know that you can compare that same pattern and make sure that a fish wasn't submitted twice.
You're talking like the fish being left to right with the head being to the left.
So typically you see in the bass tournaments they require the vertical part of your measuring board to be to the left. Right, it's going to be laid in a flat position. They don't want a bow in the board that could affect the length. The nose of the fish should be facing the bump, and the belly of the fish should be facing you. And that's what they do in most of the bass tournaments. We didn't really have that rule in place today, and I can see why they do it now that we've been through this judging process. As I was, because we did have a couple people that submitted duplicate fish today, and I truly believe it was an accident. A lot of guys, take 4 or 5 pictures of different fish, and then they come back to submit them a little bit later, and they accidentally submit the same fish twice. And I can see an accident being made like that, but just being able to compare the patterns on the fish, it's nice to have it consistent. But anyway, so go on to the next picture. That's a good picture of what it should look like.
All right,
and,
picture number 2.
And sorry if any of y'all's pictures show up on here. I'm not trying to pick on y'all. So this next one, one thing you'll see on this measuring board is it only has inch marks. There's no 1/4 inch, no 1/2 inch. So based on the tournament rules, I had to round down to whatever was the next visible mark. Another thing I found with this picture is that I think anglers should try to be cautious of how they take the picture. You need to try to take it in as straight down of an angle as you can, because as you can see here, it makes it a little tough to see if that mouth is all the way closed or not from the angle this picture was taken. All right, next one, Ben.
Let's see, 3.
This is just to show this same measuring board. As you can see, this fish was probably at least 15 3/4, and unfortunately, I had to mark it as 15 inches because that was the line that I saw. So they probably got a 3/4 inch deduction here.
Wow.
What measuring board is that? Do you know?
It doesn't
It's a Mustad.
Oh.
It's Mustad.
Which one is it? You know?
I believe Mustad is the company.
Mustad, yeah. I mean, for somebody that's just checking to see if their fish falls within the state limits, it's fine. But for doing something like this, it's, I have a feeling measuring boards like that we probably won't even be allowing in the future. But for this purpose and trying to get this together quick, it went that way. All right. The next one is
4.
Blue Kayak, Blue Outback, Newer Outback, orange measuring board.
Yep.
Looks like maybe one of the guys on this show right here. The identifier is clearly in the picture, but the mouth was slightly cracked open. So this is one of the fish that I deducted a 1/2 inch for.
Was that one of mine?
Yes.
Oh, you son. I knew you were going to submit one of mine.
There was a lot of fish like this today, and it got to the point where I even was sent a couple pictures to Todd Lewis and Josh Thompson and some of these guys that weren't in the tournament. I was like, look, let's just give me a second opinion and make sure y'all think I'm about this right way. And they kind of stood behind me and made me feel better about making the decisions I was making. But anyway, and next one there, Ben.
All right, number 5.
So this was just to show we had multiple people using their boat grips in the mouth of the fish while they were measuring. I know Dan did it on purpose. Maybe some of these other guys didn't expect the deduction. I know IFA allows you to do this. Most of the bass tournaments do not. As you can see, the fish is it's hard to really tell if the fish is touching the bump. Not only is the mouth open, which is a 1/2 inch deduction, it's hard to tell if the fish is even touching the 0 line because of the bump. All right, Ben. One more.
All right, number 6.
And this one is, I actually, unfortunately, had to completely deny this fish.
Whoa. You threw it out completely?
Yes,
we tried very hard to come up with a justifiable number, and ultimately could not tell whether that was a 12-inch fish or a 9-inch fish. I ended up actually chatting with the guy who submitted that fish, and he completely understood and was a good sport about it. He was just having trouble fussing with the app, trying to take the picture at the same time and dealing with a board without like a little bump back to it. So these are things that are easily fixable, and I'm sure that he'll be better at next tournament.
Yeah, it's all a learning experience, but just to go over a couple of things in the picture. So you see the mouth is completely out of the picture. There's not really a way to tell if it's actually on the 0 mark. Then the mouth is also cracked open a little bit. The tail of the fish is also a little bit out of the picture, so it's hard to see what line it's touching. His identifier is written on the back of his hand, and you can only see half of it. The identifier is not fully visible in the picture. And then lastly, he's using a measuring. It's almost like the measuring board that they give you for IFA. It's like a really flexible sticker that you can mount to a harder surface, and his wasn't mounted, so it didn't have the vertical post to put the nose of the fish against. I think it probably fought him a lot more. And once we get some better rules in place on the measuring boards and he's able to get him a little better setup, he'll probably have a lot easier time. I think that was the last one.
And Tyler, that's the great thing about this is it was a $5 entry fee. It was to give everybody kind of something to do, get their minds off of things. And it was a great learning experience, which I thought was the number one key about this. I know when I was all day and fighting the wind and the 2-foot waves and the dirty water and everything else, all that really took my mind off the coronavirus.
True.
So, because I was just thinking about how crappy my day was. So I really didn't have time to focus on Corona. But at the same time, I'm in the middle of Catfish Lake, coming back. I had a 2-foot chop, wind in my face. My legs were dead tired. My back was hurting. And I was thinking, this is probably the safest place I could be in the world right now here, because I don't have Ben Day coughing on me until I got all the way across the lake, at which point he pulls up right behind me and starts hacking on me. So it was really good. I enjoyed it. So this was a Fish Anywhere tournament, which is pretty cool. I know a lot of people had been scouting for Trout Challenge. Dan, I know that you've been out nearly every day for the last 2 months, with the exception of Wednesdays, because I know you work on Wednesdays. But every day you've been fishing with Breck Hotard, and he's been kind of showing you around and helping you, and you've been kind of experimenting with different things. And I know all the fish you caught today were on the lures I recommended to you. So
no popping cork today. No popping cork today.
So it was a really good thing to get out mentally. I think for a lot of us, where we couldn't hang out together, but at the same time we were still hanging out together. Because I was texting and talking to everybody, and I was looking at the results that were coming in, and I was probably in 6 or 7 different text conversations about, oh damn, I can't believe Action Jack is on the fish, right? I mean, who Action Jack? We knew
there was
Chuck
probably a few of them saying that damn Tyler deducted me again.
Yeah. And it was great because I was getting deducted like inches and 2 inches, and I think at one point Tyler took 10 inches off of one of my fish. But I was like, it's all right. That 22 went down to 12, but I'm good with that. So I thought we were actually going to be submitting the results live. There was apparently a miscommunication with Dan, because he had already submitted.
No, there was a rule that was written in there.
It's my fault.
It was right next to the one that said you could measure any size trout.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you.
If only I would have known.
I didn't read the rules at all. I may have violated a few. I have no idea. Just went out fishing today and was around with the app, and I tied on these ridiculous baits on. And
you forgot to mention the boat that crossed the road.
Oh yeah, on the way down there today. You guys, I don't know. I posted it. So I'm heading down to Golden Meadow this morning, and I'm I don't know, a couple miles north of La Rose, and there's a guy in the middle of the road, and all the traffic stopped. I'm like, what's going on? And I couldn't figure it out. And he's sitting out there, and he's setting up these hazard cones, and I'm like, well, this is just stupid. Why don't we just move that pole? It looked like it was a pole. Well, anyway, I started seeing him go around. So this guy was towing a flatbed, 30-foot flatbed trailer, and somehow manages to flip the whole trailer and block off the whole road. at, I don't know, 5:30 this morning. So I sat there for a few minutes. I was the second guy in line, and we were all able to maneuver around it. Well, unfortunately, Ben slept in along with Scott Myers, so they caught the traffic, and it wasn't moving. So everybody was kind of stuck behind this flatbed trailer for a while. I know y'all had to double back around, but
that's horrible.
That would have been a crappy day if this had been Trout Challenge.
Yes, you're right.
So look, this wasn't going to be a long episode tonight, so I'm gonna move on to the results. In anticipation of what could happen. So the way it worked, Dan, I understand, is that all the submissions had to be in by 3, but the live cut off at 2. Is that correct?
Correct. The way we had set it up was that just to test the concept of building a little bit of anticipation to see who's sandbagging the field and could maybe submit some fish at the last minute when you're not expecting it. Right. We had it set up so that you could submit fish and lines in the water starting at 6:30 a.m. today. And then the live leaderboard that everybody could view online, that would kick off at 2 or when I got to it because I was out on the water. So it kicked off at about 2:10 this afternoon, and then around 3 I kicked it back on to show the final results.
Yeah. I kind of like it, and this was different. We're trying different things. Mm-hmm. I've seen it where they kind of kick it off maybe an hour or 2 before the fishing deadline, and then they do the results like later that night. Usually it's at a weigh-in ceremony, or at a captain's meeting where they do the award announcement. Because you do have some people that sandbag, meaning they wait till the very end to submit all their fish. Some do it intentionally, some don't. This one, though, the results came out right after 3. So I think most people probably went and saw it. But look, let's do this. We're going to go through the top 5, and I'm going to pull it up now. By the way, this Tourney X app is so simple to use. You take a picture with your phone, you hit submit catch, you put your picture in and the number of inches, and that's it.
Yeah, I'll say from the judging side, I was just going to mention a couple things. I think it's really cool, and it just they have so many measures in there to help prevent people from cheating, which is nice. But if you if I have a submission come in from one guy and it's 12 inches, and he had another fish that's 12 inches or very close, it'll alert me and say, hey, there's another fish that's a similar size, and I can pull them up side by side, use a little magnifying glass, look at the patterns, make sure it's 2 separate fish. It'll even say Sean submitted a fish that was 12 inches, and then Dan also submits a fish that's 12 inches, and it was within an hour of each other. It will alert and say, hey, check these 2 fish to make sure these guys aren't sharing fish and taking pictures of the same one.
Really?
It's pretty impressive.
Interesting.
We even have a feature that there's a couple times that it popped up and said, hey, this picture is extremely similar to one picture that this guy already submitted. I don't know if maybe the tail was but the ones that it popped up, I could tell.
That's pretty complex photo technology. Neat.
Now, when Dan was submitting fish, did it pop up and say, you might want to double check this, Dan submitting fish?
Yeah, it said this is the guy that's putting on the tournament, and he's in first, so double check this one.
We're talking about a guy who caught 1 10-inch fish at Minimalist Challenge 2 months ago.
Yeah. Look, they say every dog, Dan, has a. Apparently, today, I don't know. I would have waited for a BCKFC tournament, but hey, look.
So would have I, but it wasn't in the cards.
So let's go through the top 5. We had some interesting names, some not surprises, and some very big surprises. The top. Well, you know what? Let's do the top 10. So we had 35 people enter the tournament, and the top 10 at 10 was Jeff Oliver, 69 inches. Josh Red had a total of 69 and a half. Breck Hotard, your mentor, Dan, 72.75 inches.
Oh.
Mike Etheridge, I know Mike was fishing Golden Medal. I ran into him today.
Yep,
73.75. Brendan Bayard, 73.75 and 6. I'm surprised. This is a trout tournament. I would expect it better of you, Brendan.
Didn't he run into some sharks also, though, that might have hurt him?
Shark twice.
Really?
And for people, what being sharked is, we already talked about being Rodbell. Being sharked is when you catch a fish and you come in with a head because the shark came in and got the rest of the fish. Personally, it's never happened to me. I think it's people coming up with excuses when they don't catch any fish. Oh man, 30-inch trout on the line and they got sharked. I know it was big because the head on it was this big, you know. And,
Well, I've seen pictures of these heads sometimes, and I just can't help but laugh.
right. I mean, you think maybe we should got some pictures of the head.
Yeah,
but,
could have got a few inches. I mean, we didn't have a minimum, so.
Yeah.
5.5 inches of fish.
That's true. Top 5. I'm going to get off a shout out to my girl Hard Faust, 78 inches.
Keep
Fish
in
by
mind,
herself.
I don't want to call her out, but she was one of the ones that had a measuring board that I had to round down a good bit. So.
Oh, because it didn't have the lines
Right.
on.
So had I not had to do that, she may have been even a little higher up.
Yeah,
wow.
she probably would have had close to like 80 inches or so, I'd say. I actually took a look at her pictures earlier just out of curiosity, and yeah, I mean, it makes a big difference. She lost probably about 2 inches cumulative amongst her 5 fish.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Did we lose him?
Uh-oh. Is this his new internet?
All right,
He
I will
built a
pick up.
fancy house and got got dial up.
I will go ahead and pick it up where he has left off. So, following hard in 4th place, you got Action Jack Hickman. He was killing it. I mean, he had like early in the morning, he had a 19-inch fish, an 18-inch fish, 17, 16-inch fish. He had 70 inches of fish right off the bat. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, he just needs an average fish, and he's going to run away with this.
What was his small fish?
13.
That's what I'm saying. He didn't need. He could have culled. I mean, all he needed was one cull, and he could have had that.
I was talking to him a little bit, and the weather pattern changed on him a little bit where he was fishing, and just the second half of the morning and into the day, it just was not working, unfortunately. But he put in a hell of an effort there with 4th place. Then of course there's Danny Campagno, 83 1/4 inches out of his home port as always. He really knows how to rake in the fish. He had a over 20-inch fish that was really impressive. And then coming in at 2nd place we have Chuck Bahan. He had 85 inches.
Yeah, y'all
He
two
was-
neck and neck.
We were neck and neck all day. I feel like I was anywhere from a 1/2 inch to tied to 2 inches ahead. Literally, I'd submit a fish, he'd submit a fish, and it was just all day long.
When y'all were tied, y'all both had submissions come in at the same time.
Yeah. Tyler, I'll let you announce the winner.
And 1st place was yours truly, Mr. Dan Rodbell. Congratulations, Dan. What was his big fish? I think we talked about it, but 22 inches with a nice Tyler Caldwell deduction down to 21.5.
Not even it was just a 1/2 inch deduction, but I actually sent you a message saying I'm about ready to submit a beast. Give me my 1/2 inch deduction. I wasn't letting it bounce off the board. But yeah, so I mean, really, today is Sean back with us?
Dude, the corona got my internet.
All right. Well, we just went down and Tyler announced the winner.
Wait a minute.
You've been usurped, Sean. You gotta have good internet.
I've got great internet.
You got a nice swimming pool back there and everything, but you skimped on the. You got dial up.
I got the 1 megahertz internet, but the corona got it. So, did we announce that Dan won his own tournament yet?
Yeah.
We have not said it in those words.
Sean gets to announce it in his own way.
So basically, he broke even because he bought the prize and he won it. So he's even.
This was the ultimate con where basically I've tricked my wife into saying that I was buying lures for a tournament for a prize that I then ended up giving to myself.
Oh wait, who finished 2nd?
Was it Chuck Bahan?
Man, Dan,
Yeah,
you keep beating poor Chuck.
Dan, Dan,
That's not nice. That's not nice.
Dan smoked him in the election, and he smoked him.
Oh, come on! Don't do Chuck dirty like that. But I will admit, I came into the day really just ready to get people out on the water and have fun. And when I caught my first 18 1/4 inch fish, it just spurred me on to be competitive. And then when I saw Chuck right behind me, I couldn't help myself. I had to fish hard the rest of the day. I just couldn't help myself.
He was on me today about deducting his fish, man. I felt so bad, and I'm so glad that when this tournament ended, he had called out all the fish with open mouths. So you cannot blame it on me. All the fish that he caught had closed mouths for his top 5. So don't blame me, Chuck.
So let me get this straight, Dan. You beat Chuck, and you also beat Breck by over 10 inches. 13 inches almost. Your mentor. I mean, what do you think he's thinking right now?
I think that Breck is pretty ticked off about that fish that whizzed past his ear. But really what it came down to was Breck had done some good pre-fishing, and he had found some absolute hogs, I believe on Thursday when he was there, and he went to his first spot, and they were just not there. So I immediately had like a 45-minute head start because there were fish in my first spot.
Yeah, and that's key. So just, to kind of I fished Golden Meadow. I crossed the lake. I was fishing some different areas. The water was pretty dirty over there.
Really dirty.
The fish stacked up anywhere. It was like one here, one there. I missed a couple of big blow-ups. I actually had 2 blow-ups. One may have been a redfish. The other one was definitely a trout. Though we were crossing an area, and there was this brown shrimp jumping across. And I mean, it was this trout chasing him. That trout came out the water, and I was like, "Oh, I'm trying to get it over my line over there. I couldn't get it over there in time." It would have probably, probably about a 16, 17 inch trout. It was nice, but overall, I was disappointed in Golden Meadow today. A lot of it had to do with the wind. There was some lower water too. I mean, I got stuck in the mud at one point, in a lot of areas I wanted to go to. The water was a little bit lower. I was kind of surprised. Dan, I know you fished basins. What did you find the conditions like over there?
Well, starting off in the morning, the water was actually fairly high. Like at the launch right there, the water was up to the edge of the concrete, where it made it really easy to just slide my kayak in off the water. Towards
the area where Tyler fell in last week?
Are we talking about the area where there's kind of like a dock and everything?
I don't know. I know Tyler fell in a hole last week.
Did he?
Yeah.
Didn't somebody else fall in like a minute before too? The same spot?
That was in the morning. Went through all day,
that's
and
right.
by then we forgot about it and everything.
But anyways, I mean, as far as the conditions go, the area that I went was the first time I'd ever been, and the water was just really clear. It was clean water just about everywhere I went today.
Really?
Very clear water. Very clear water.
Yeah, I mean, that's good to know. I haven't fished basins a lot. I heard actually really good things in the weeks coming up to this. Actually, I know Golden Meadow was really good about 4 or 5 weeks ago for the reports I was getting. And then basins the last 2 weeks have really turned on. I really considered fishing over there this morning, but I kind of went with what I knew. And I should have gone with the reports instead of what I knew. But, Dan, look, 81 inches – trout tournament. That was a great day for you today. I know that 22-inch trout is probably
85 and a half.
Yeah, 85 and a half. 22-inch trout is probably one of the biggest trout you've ever caught.
It actually tied my personal best, which was actually the last time I caught a trout that big was in September of 2018. So it was a big gap, but it's just as fun catching them.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You had a great day. Got some great lures to show for it. So I'm sure you can have a good day. I know, so a lot of people are probably wondering what Bayou Coast is going to be doing going forward. And I can tell you nothing's been obviously decided yet. We're all kind of playing this day by day. We're in March now. Paddlepalooza is a month away. I don't know, maybe you guys can chime in. If I had to guess, I would suspect that Paddlepalooza will probably be postponed simply because we're looking at being 4 weeks away and getting 250 plus people together. I don't realistically see that happening right now. Tyler, Dan, do y'all have any expectations that?
Well, one thing I will say, and talking with Eric, he's the one who goes through all the work the last several years to get this all set up. He does a tremendous job. And from him talking to, I believe it's Buggy at Bridgeside, the guy who runs that, Grand Isle basically shut down all events on the island through April 19th, which is the week before we arrive. So if and when they decide to either say, hey, April 19th is good, or extend the block on events, that'll effectively be what makes the decision as to whether or not we'll be able to hold Paddlepalooza, I think, in realistic terms.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very difficult to do it under the current circumstances. Now, that's the bad news. And again, things are subject to change every day. I mean, they could come out with a vaccine. I know they're working on that. They could lift the quarantine, although even if they lift the stay-at-home order, I think we'd still be a little nervous about that. Getting that amount of people together. But the good news is I thought overall it went really well today. Certainly we had issues, but this is all going to be a learning experience. Trout Challenge got postponed. I'm one of the tournament directors along with Dan, and what I'd like to do is especially if Paddlepalooza gets postponed, and regardless, is to go forward with Trout Challenge hopefully next month in a CPR format. We'd have to certainly look at the boundaries and what we would be willing to do. But this is a great test scenario for everybody. It's going to give everybody the opportunity to still compete, still keep our tournaments, and still comply with the law and the spirit of the rule about maintaining the social distancing. It would certainly be a CPR tournament. Again, something very similar to today, just a straight up 5 trout tournament. Maybe we do it all a Highway 1 or something like that. I don't know yet. And if we're still dealing with this in May, certainly we could do another one with redfish down in the parish.
Or maybe bass.
Or bass or something. It's really, we are trying to stay safe and do what we need to do, but also still give people an outlet to get out there, to get some exercise, to get out in the air, to not be cooped up at home. And to have some fun and get it off your mind, at least for a little while. So hopefully we'll have some more announcements coming in that way shortly. We talk about this thing every day. It was really tough postponing this tournament, but we all thought it was the right thing to do. Again, thanks to Dan for putting this on such short notice, especially with everything you had going on at work. I know you're in the market. Your clients will millions of dollars.
Yeah, I work in the finance industry, and the past 2-3 weeks have been very trying for my clients, and we're hoping for greener pastures ahead.
Yeah, I know Ben and Tyler are wanting to fish a couple of things before their babies are due in June.
For sure.
Yeah, and so
it wouldn't be a bad idea to, if Paddlepalooza were to get postponed, canceled, whatever happens, to do Trout Challenge that weekend, because a lot of people already have plans to be off and down there. So
I was thinking the same thing, Tyler. I mean, that's a great idea. I don't know, again, if Paddlepalooza will get rescheduled, if it get canceled completely, or what's going to happen. The other thing with that we were talking about, and this is a frank discussion for everybody and for our listeners, and a lot of you guys know the officers at the club, so if y'all have any ideas or suggestions or comments, feel free to reach out to any of us. But one of the things we were talking about today when I was on my way home with Tyler was a lot of people are out of work right now. And it's a struggle right now for a lot of people. It's something we're very cognizant of. And Paddlepalooza is a big ordeal. You got a $50 or $60 entry fee. Usually it's a weekend down in Grand Isle. You're spending money on hotels. You're spending money on food. You're spending on entry fees. You're going to run a couple $100. And that just may be a hardship for a number of our members. So we're keeping that in mind. At the end of the day, it'll be probably the officers who obviously the officers will make the decision on that in conjunction with what Eric Stacy recommends and what the government's going to require us to do. But just know that, we certainly want these events to go forward. We understand how much it means to everybody. It means a lot to us. We just want to do what's right, and certainly we don't want to have an outbreak of the corona at a freaking weigh-in ceremony at Bridgeside. I mean, I don't think any of us would ever forgive ourselves. So, but I had a lot of fun today. I got back a little early because I had to. I got the raccoon eyes. I think everybody can probably see. Dan, I wanted to thank you again for putting this tournament on, for donating your own money to put right back in your pocket. So thank you for that. Tyler, thanks for your time today. and judging. I know you're catching a lot of flack for it from everybody, you know, but it's all good. And Ben, for coming on here at the last minute, getting the pictures organized and everything. It was kind of a last minute deal, and I thought it was gonna be a half-hour show. We're already in an hour. So.
It's a bonus episode.
I knew that was going to happen. I mean, whenever Sean's leading things,
Hey, I didn't talk about chickens, so you know. Oh, I do. I do have one. Let me tell you one story. It's a fishing story.
But there is another one. Okay.
It's a fishing story though. This is great. I'm fishing this area, and I caught some there last year. It was this rock structure at Golden Meadow, and I was like the first bite, like first cast. I had a nice blow up on top water, and it was a nice trout. And there's like an eagle or a hawk or some big bird of prey, like on one of these signs. And he takes off. I don't know if I was pissing him off or not. He's got a trout in his claws like that big. Like you can't probably see it, but it was huge. Talking
like a 20 plus inch trout.
Yeah. And he flies around and he takes off. And I'm like, okay. Well, then he comes back later and he flies back in front of me with trout. Then he comes back in front of me yet again, like 5 minutes later. He's like showing off to me like look at me. I didn't even have to use a rod. I wasn't scooping out the water. Why can't you do that? I mean, he was taunting me. I was pretty clear he was taunting me. I was not happy with him. But anyway, that was pretty funny. Seeing I was actually being taunted by a bird. So I don't know. Dan wins the tournament. I'm taunted by a bird. I mean, shit, the world's ending.
The only thing missing is the Terry Pham special.
Yeah. Well, Ben had one rigged up for sure. Yeah. I saw him fishing with that.
That's what I got that 19-inch trout on that came off with when I didn't have a net.
19.
Speaking of, it's not quite Terry Pham's special, but it is the Four Horsemen Armored Cork and some Gulp Fire Tiger color. So.
Ooh,
Fire Tiger.
That Fire Tiger color. Pretty legit.
Everybody I know fishes with the Fire Tiger. Said no one ever.
I've heard the Fire Tiger is particularly good color for actually catching trout. They use it a lot in the flounder. They use it a lot in the Carolinas, so I was curious to try it for that reason.
Were you catching flounder today?
No, but I'm saying whoever's going to get this pack may get a chance at it.
I always called it Tangerine Sunset.
Tangerine, that sounds like a drink. All right, guys. Well, look, it's 8:30. I know we had a lot of people fishing today. Probably didn't get to take a nap like me.
Sound like you need another nap.
Yeah, we're going to keep everybody updated. Dan, congrats to you again. Congrats to Chuck for a really tight second-place finish. If not for Tyler, he probably would have pulled it off. And to everybody else in the top 5 and Hart and Action Jack and Danny, great job today. I hope everybody had a good time, got their mind off. And we got to do this again real soon and have some fun. So we will touch base with y'all again here in a week or two on Off the Water. Y'all have any questions or comments? Y'all have any questions specifically about the how your fish were weighed in? Certainly message Tyler. He can hopefully answer any of your questions you have. We're going to clarify the board issues for our CPR tournaments for the club as far as what type of board to use. I know Tyler's got some comments on that, and we'll clarify once we get a better idea. So y'all stay safe out there, guys. Try to stay home if you can. Limit your contact. Hopefully we'll get through this the next couple of weeks and everything get back to normal.
All right.
Thanks a lot, guys.
See you later, everybody.